Welcome to the Clubroom. My name is Mark Moyer, and I am super excited you're here. The Clubroom is brought to you by the Winning Academy, which is brought to you by a whole bunch of sponsors, which I will tell you about shortly. But before that, just a couple quick words. Number one, tell you a bit about my background on myself. I've been coaching athletes and executives from their sport or their career into new careers, and for a long time, 20 plus years. And one of the things I've noticed throughout that time is that a lot of times the confidence goes away if you're an athlete retiring from your sport, or if you're trying to switch careers as an executive. And what I try to remind people all the time is that the confidence should always be there because you've excelled already. You've already been an elite athlete. You can absolutely carry that same thing into an elite career. So one of the things I like to tell people all the time is, and we talk about this quite a bit, is being proactive, not reactive. What I mean by that is you decide what it is you want to do next, where you want to do it, and with who. And then we start a process of learning how to best network your way into those kinds of opportunities. So when people say, oh, the market's not that great, I say, well, it doesn't matter. You only need one job. You only need one company to start. There's only one thing you need. And that comes from making one relationship with one person, especially at a room like this or other future events. When you're connecting with people and you're asking them if they know people that can help you, the network grows immensely. And that's absolutely what you should be doing tonight. So moving forward real quickly, again, our mission is to give athletes, retired and current, as well as non-athletes, executives, founders, etc., the tools and the confidence and the mojo and everything else necessary to make that great next leap. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. I've got such a fantastic panel. I'll talk about them in a minute. But first, I want to thank our supporters and our friends. Number one, got to say Colgate University, my alma mater. I'm class of, I went there a long time ago, but absolutely amazing school, puny little place up in Hamilton, New York that is below zero about 75% of the time, but it's a beautiful campus. Apparently a lot of smart people go there. They started letting those in a year or two after I left. But great school, super excited to be part of all this. I'm going to first start with Kathryn. And Kathryn Bertine, class of 1997 at Colgate. She was born and raised in Westchester, Bronxville, New York. And really incredible about her, she was a figure skater through childhood and through Colgate, an incredible one. In fact, she danced for the Ice Capades and so forth. Incredible ice skater. But then she decided one day, you know what, I'm going to try rowing. And she rowed at Colgate and really an amazing athlete. But then back in 2006, ESPN asked her to do a story about the Olympics. And they said, hey, why don't you try to make the 2008 Olympics? So she tried to do that through cycling. And then moving forward, she became a pro cyclist. She was the catalyst for bringing women into the Tour de France. Really amazing story. We'll hear a lot more about that. She retired a couple of years ago, started the Homestretch Foundation, great organization. We'll talk about that. And she's just finished her fourth book called Stand. So come on in and join us, Kathryn. Oh my God, that's too many things.
So nice. Thank you.
I know I missed so many, but I'll move on here. All right, Adonal, I'm going to go Adonal Foyle, class of 99, born in St. Vincent in the Caribbean, and he was adopted at the age of 15 by the Mandels in Hamilton, New York, and they're both Colgate professors. And he played for Hamilton High School, broke about 1 jillion records, and then he decided that he wanted to attend Colgate instead of Duke, North Carolina, and all the big basketball powerhouses that wanted him, because he wanted to learn the game in a slower pace, and didn't mean a bad pace, but he really wanted to pick up the game much stronger. And so he attended Colgate, and he's their all-time leading rebounder, second in scoring, all this kind of stuff. But best of all, he was magna cum laude. I mean, this guy is a super smart guy, super smart. He played 13 years in the NBA, Golden State Warriors, and he did a couple other pit stops, and he retired back in. He started a couple of nonprofits, Democracy Matters in 2001, and he started Kerosene Lamp Foundation in 2003. We'll talk about that. He's a prolific author, and he's got a brand new book out there we'll talk about too. He's also a big-time supporter of mental health and wellness for athletes. So please come on in, Adonal. Damn it. I wish you guys didn't have so much stuff that you did. It'd be so much easier. There he is. All right. Next up, batting. Next up in the order, Lauren Schmetterling. Lauren is class of 2010. She was born and raised in Jersey, New Jersey. Sorry. Anyway, and was not only got a scholarship to go to Colgate. Wait a minute. I don't know if she got a scholarship. You're gonna have to correct me on that if I got it wrong. But was an incredible rower at Colgate. But then it just catapulted her into an amazing career, winning 4 gold medals, including a gold at the 2016 Olympics in Rio. She's amazing. She's the only gold medalist ever at Colgate University alum. So we're super proud of what she's done. In fact, she was on the Today Show down in Rio with Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, and Bubba Watson. That's a trio right there. That's pretty damn cool. And just retired a couple weeks ago. She's going to be pursuing her MBA. But if anybody out there wants to hire a kick-ass Olympic gold medalist, talk to her. So Lauren, why don't you come on in? And batting cleanup, number 31. No, I don't know what number you were. Sorry, Danny. But Daniel Green. All right, here we go. So Danny, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a big fan of that. Played hoops at Colgate University and was pretty damn good. But then he decided to pursue a track in finance first. He was a financial advisor of Morgan Stanley. Pretty cool. But then started working for some agencies, worked for the Miami Heat for a while, worked for, I think it's Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment, but the umbrella organization for the Brooklyn Nets for a while, but then founded his own firm, Green Sports Management, a couple of years ago. He is one of, as he tells me, only 30 people on the planet who are both NBA agents and NCAA agents. So Danny, I hope I got that all right, mostly, 50%-ish. I'm out of breath. How did I do, guys? Lauren, did I do okay?
You did great. Colgate does not offer scholarships, though, right?
Yeah, I know, whatever.
not just for me, for any sport.
I sort of got one. Daniel, where are you? What happened? Where'd he go? Is he coming in? Yeah, he's coming in. All right. Anyway, so while we're waiting for him to pop his head in, is he here? You guys don't. Oh, there he is. Okay, got it. There he is. All right. I got it. All right. So a couple of things I want to make sure we cover tonight, among other things, is really, for some of you who have played and then you've moved on, if you've got some advice you'd give others on sort of what are some of the best ways to figure out what your next career should be once your playing days are over. What are some of the things that you can factor into that. Another couple of things I'd love to toss out there are some of the mistakes that student athletes can avoid while playing. Another couple of things, how important it is to have support from everyone around you, whether it's family, friends, etc. Also some, like maybe what the price is that you have to pay to be an elite student athlete. I mean, that's an important one. And then lastly, just how your athletic mindset and your skill set have translated into business and so forth. So that's just some of the things right there that I want to cover today. So there you go. I hope I didn't ruin the surprise too much. But number one, I want to start actually with Kathryn. If you could just throw, I'm going to throw this at you real quick. Really the first question is, because you're just an athlete, bottom line. I mean, the concept of figure skating, I can tell you right now, I'm scared to death of those little sharp prongs on the front of the skates there. They just look like they cut through everything. So I don't even want to go near those skates. So I don't know how you did that for so long. And then you were on Disney on Ice and all that sort of thing. So people were paying $1 bajillion to watch you guys skate on what looks like, I don't even know how they did the ice on like the Radio City there. Oh wait, actually I'm going to ask you that. Was that actually ice or was it like a fake surface?
No, it's real ice, but they also have fake plastic surfaces that act as ice. It's such a weird world.
Well, tell me about it. What made it weird?
Like the idea of skating on plastic, yet it somehow works. That's weird. But I was mostly on ice.
All right, and so then, and you also did rowing, and then you got into pro cycling. But tell me a little bit about. I mean, I sort of glossed over it a little bit, but tell me what got you into the cycling thing.
Yeah, so a couple things. One is that I was working for ESPN when they offered me this assignment of, you know, hey, go see if you can make the Olympic Games. Like that was the assignment. And
Easy.
right, yeah, exactly. And keep in mind at this point, I'm living in Tucson where there is neither ice nor water. And you know, I also knew, and I was racing as a bit as a triathlete, but I wasn't yet fast enough at the Olympic distance qualification levels to make that a foreseeable opportunity. But I was pretty good at the bike leg of triathlon. So I thought, well, maybe I can make some headway in road cycling. And that's what took me on that journey. So spoiler alerts, I did not make the Olympic Games, but what was crazy is that I came very, very close. So when the assignment ended, I was hooked by the sport. I was totally in love with cycling, and I wanted to pursue it and think like, oh my gosh, how far can I go? Can I get to the pro ranks? You know, could I make it to the Tour de France? Those were kind of the questions that infiltrated my head, as did the fact that this sport was so crazy backward in terms of equity for women. And my journalism side wanted to probe that as well. So that's a little bit how I got into cycling. But had anybody asked me, you know, what are you going to be doing when you graduate from Colgate? Oh my God, like, boy, did I take a left turn from, from where I thought my life was going to go to where it is.
But you know what's interesting? Almost all of us do. It happens, right? I mean, I never imagined I'd end up where I was. I never thought I'd be doing this. This is all amazing. But I think that's the beauty of getting all right, this is going to be like a Colgate's, you know, whatever it is, suck up a little bit. But I mean, that's the beauty of going to a college like Colgate, where, you know, you're given so much to learn and different things and different flavors and so forth, and you experience life there too, that when you leave, you've got a pretty sort of a really diverse array of skills and capabilities and so forth that you can really leverage. That piggybacks right into my question for Danny, because Danny, I know you played basketball at Colgate. Was there a point where you were thinking, hey, you know what, I wonder if I can take it to the next level, or were you pretty sure it'd be something else? Tell me about your time from sort of graduation on.
Yeah, great question. You know, for me, I always knew, you know, since probably high school, that the ball had to stop bouncing one day, you know, and I knew if I didn't play professionally that, you know, I did want to work in the business side of sports. I didn't know what that would entail. So, you know, as many of us probably think, the only job in sports is being a sports agent. So naturally, you know, what I pursued was working for a sports agent, which gave me some very, very high level, valuable experience in the industry. That agency was, at first, it was Rose Professional Management. It got acquired by CAA, which is now one of the largest agencies today. So got some really, really high level experience fresh out the gate. And, you know, the name of the agency, Rose Professional Management, you know, 15 years later, that was Leon Rose, who's now the president of the New York Knicks. And he's went on to represent some of the, you know, highest profile guys in the NBA, you know, from Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson, you know, a ton of players. So, you know, having that experience on the representation side really opened my eyes up to other opportunities within the world of sports, you know, things they don't teach you probably, you know, in college, at universities, especially, you know, Colgate's a prestigious university, liberal arts, you know, degree where, you know, they focus on, you know, creating this well-rounded individual outside the box thinker. But, you know, I still was limited to knowing what jobs, you know, were in sports. So, you know, just me naturally being inquisitive and reaching out to just different people in the industry, got a chance to really see how different sides of the industry worked, you know, so everything from, you know, what a wealth manager who works for professional athletes do. I got a chance to see kind of what the team side of things look like. So for me, kind of, you know, just well, fast forwarding to where I am today, got a chance to, you know, not only see, you know, the agency side of things fresh out of Colgate, got a chance to see the wealth management side of things and also the team side of things. And I said, you know, when the time is right, I want to, you know, utilize my entrepreneurial spirit, combine all the knowledge that I've developed over the, you know, 15 years and, you know, segue into have my own agency. And that's what I'm doing today. So.
Wow. You wrapped that up into like you said that before, haven't you? It's very impressive. Yeah, before I forget, there's a Q&A section on your far right over there. And so for everybody who's here, if you have questions for anybody, please pop them in there. And for the rest of you who are looking at those questions when you get a chance, feel free to vote on them. So this way, if anybody has a really cruddy question, like it might happen. It doesn't get voted, and then the good questions go to the top. So right now, Matt's enjoying a 3-0 lead because no one else has actually asked any questions yet, but they will in a little bit. But anyway, so feel free to ask any questions that you'd love to ask any of these folks here, and we'll go from there. So with that said, Lauren, so at what point did you say, wait a minute, I got a shot to like, I mean, we'll talk about the Olympics in a minute, but even before that, I mean, there was a point where you said, wait a minute, I'm really, really good at this sport. What was that moment? Like, when was that?
Okay, that's a great question because it really wasn't like a moment. It was more like a sum of the parts. So I started rowing in high school, wasn't really a great high school rower. I couldn't get recruited. My dream school was UVA, couldn't get recruited there or anywhere else. I was looking for a scholarship. And that didn't end up panning out at all. So I was like, okay, I'll just go to a school that's a great academic fit, which was Colgate, which it absolutely was. Colgate is a D1 school, but I wouldn't say they're a top 20 rowing school. And I walked onto the team. I had a great academic and really athletic experience at Colgate. I just got more and more into rowing every year that I was there. And I've always enjoyed being on the water, being on a team. And I got faster and faster over my time at Colgate. And by my senior year, I got a look from the national team coach, and they said to me, you know, if you can meet this, and this standard, we'll be happy to have you at camp. And I worked hard on meeting those standards, and I got the invite to camp. That was 2010, but I still had a long journey to making the Olympic team in 2016. And by the time I graduated in 2010, you know, I made it my goal just to, you know, fulfill my potential as an athlete.
You sort of did. Congratulations. Amazing, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You know, it's interesting. I was having this conversation earlier today with somebody else. We were talking about being an Olympian and how just making an Olympic team is such an incredible accomplishment. And I was actually speaking with somebody, another person yesterday, that you know, a Major League Baseball player, and you know, part of his concern was, well, my stats aren't that good, weren't that good, blah, blah, blah. I said, it doesn't matter if you got shelled in the only time you played. I mean, you attained the top level of, right? And that's such an incredible accomplishment to be able to say that, much less obviously winning a gold medal. So congratulations on that. And we're going to talk about that in a sec. So now, Adonal, batting cleanup for you. This question here is, you know, at what point in your case, I mean, you obviously had a successful high school basketball career, and then you went to Colgate and basically annihilate everybody that was in your way and that sort of thing. But was there a specific time that you kind of had a feeling like the NBA might be a reality for you?
You know, that one of the great thing, I was in absolute bliss at Colgate in terms of, like, you know, really soaking up academically and what was happening athletically. We had beefed up the schedule. We were playing really good teams outside of our conference, so I could have visibility in the national stage. So I was enjoying myself, and I'll just never forget the call. I think it was early in my junior year. I got a call saying, you know, you could be a top draft pick. Would you consider coming out? It was just not a conversation that I was anticipating having. I was planning to be 4 years in Colgate, and as is my parents, my step parents have this interesting philosophy, which is every time something comes up, you have a change circumstances, and you have to sit and have that conversation. And no matter what the result of that conversation is going to be, we all had to go through it. So we sat at the table after we got that call, and we had one of the longest conversation we've ever had as a family. We had over 4 hours of discussing what are we going to do and how this change circumstances is going to impact my future. And I think after about a week, I decided that I was going to go pro early.
And not only did you go pro early, but you went pro for a long time, and you got very used to being in the Bay Area. In fact, I think that's pretty much where you've landed, right? So with that though, were you, I mean, what was the decision against it? Like, tell me a little bit about what made that.
Right. So what made that a very traumatic decision for me is that I'm the first person in my family that was going to college. I was one of the few people I know on my entire island that had a college degree. And I was very worried that, turning pro early, I was going back on my word, so to speak, because I had promised to spend 4 years. And then, of course, staying at Colgate, you had this push and pull, which is, by that point, the question becomes, could I still learn at the rate that I need to in order to be able to make it at the next level? What was I leaving on the table? Because we had to look at the level of competition that I'll be getting every day at the next level. So we really went into detail. We called coaches. We spoke to a lot of people, really trying to figure out the best decision. I spoke to my professors, trying to get a sense that how could I finish my degree, because my mother is going to kill me if I go back to the island until I don't have a degree. It doesn't matter whether I had an MBA contract. So those decisions was real for me from a personal level and a professional level. We really wanted to have as much input, not just from the family, but bringing other people in. So we spoke to agents, we spoke to different people to really garner as much information as we need to make an informed decision.
That's great. And it's interesting because, I've spoken to a lot of athletes that have that decision to make, and it is absolutely, it's a challenging one, because on one hand, there is that pull of like, wow, I can attain this top level now. And then there's other things saying, well, I'll never be able to really finish up I can always go back sometime to finish up the degree, but, it'll be a different experience kind of a thing. So it's tough. And, but congratulations on making that decision. And, what did you tell Mom?
I had probably one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life, because after I spoke to my step-parents, they're like, well, you can't make a decision unless you talk to your mother in the Caribbean. So I remember calling and I said, Mom, got a very difficult decision to make. I know you're not going to like it. And, I want to go pro. I think it might be the best option for me at this point. And her response was, yeah, your stepper has been talking to me all along. It seems like a pretty well-reasoned decision.
Nice. After all that, oh my God. And then you said, Mom, tell you what, I promised to write a bunch of books. Is that okay?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And go back and get the degree.
Yeah, there, exactly. Nice. I like that. So Kathryn, I'm going to ask each of you, actually, just one at a time real quick. Do me a favor and give me one, whether it was a mistake that you made as a student athlete or one that you saw others make that you would encourage other student athletes to avoid. Yeah, Kathryn, go for it. Yeah.
I'm taking that off. Jeez, wow. I think, when you're in college, I don't know if you're conscious of thinking like, oh, am I making a mistake or not? For me, I had two sports going on. I was a skater, but I was also a rower, not at Lauren's level, but I was doing two sports. And for me, that balance worked really, really well, because I don't know, I enjoyed it and I loved it. I was able to for me, something about having those two balance points was very important. And I think I saw maybe some students struggle with making their sport their entire life at school. And I'm sure that transitions very well too for people who struggle. I'm seeing the questions over in the Q&A. Why do you think so many athletes struggle with that transition? Probably because that's the mindset that they adapt, that they are their sport and that's it, that's only. So I don't know, that would be my one thing, is if at that age to, give yourself some leeway and some credit to know that you are so much more than just your sport. And whatever it is that's making you good at your sport is probably making you, adaptable and good at other things in life too. I would not be able to articulate any of that at age 20 though. So I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Now's a perfect time to be telling the 20-year-olds too, because listen, this is going to be a recording that we're going to be putting out there to the masses, and I'd love to be sharing it with student athletes. So that's why that's a perfect thing for you to do, is to say, look, I didn't see this when I was there, because you're right, you're focused, you're on your sport, you're doing what you're doing, And so that's why I'm asking, what would you tell sort of yourself a couple of years ago, whenever it was that you went there a couple of years ago? Danny, talk to me.
Yeah. No, this is something that we discuss a lot with just, friends of mine that are former student athletes. I'm still very close with a lot of my teammates from Colgate. And, the one thing that we all kind of, say in common is, seeking mentorship early in our careers. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I would recommend. And also seek internships if possible. For us, we had summers off. A lot of student athletes, especially basketball players, don't really have summers because they're still training. But if you can, have an internship, really get your feet wet in terms of what your career may look like post playing days, start that process early. So I would definitely recommend that. I think that would have been helpful and beneficial for me as I transitioned into the world of sports. Instead of just thinking, hey, there's only one job out there in sports management, I could have potentially started on the team side, segued back into the agency side. So I would definitely say seek mentorship and also seek internship opportunities if possible.
Those are two fantastic ideas. Great. Lauren, how about yourself?
I would say that as a student, I didn't really fully realize or take advantage of how much professors truly wanted to help me as a student. And I think I started realizing this right around my senior year, which was 3 years too late. I mean, I got there eventually, but the resources available are just so great, and it's hard to take advantage of them all at the time. And I just wish that I had realized earlier all that there was. I mean, so I applied to grad school 2 weeks ago, and I reached out to all my old Colgate professors, and I mean, even this is 11 years ago. They're like, Lauren, I'd be delighted to help you. I remember your thesis. I remember your seminar. How are Julia and Sam doing? I mean, like the professors are there to help you and they want to help. So just use the resources that are there.
I mention that because professors are sort of like your team. Like, every year you're playing. Yeah, I mean, your class is the team that the teacher is coaching, right? And so they remember every year the class that we're, so they're spending, several months with you. So it is always flattering to go back and sort of hear from some of those professors. But it's interesting what you're saying, because I was at a reunion recently and I wandered into the, oh my God, Dana, the music building. And I was in a band at Colgate and I never even went into that music building. I mean, I was amazed at the quality of the studio stuff there. And I was like, I don't know why we didn't ever use the studio there. Like, what the hell? And it's possible because when I went, they didn't even have like whatever electricity or something. I don't know, but still, it was. So you're right. I mean, that's such a great piece of advice, Lauren, is I would do the same thing. I would encourage every current student to really try to take advantage of everything that the universities and any school is offering. And that's something that I spend probably too much time hanging out with my friends and socializing and stuff, and not enough time really exploring the campus. So great advice. How about you, Donald?
Yeah, so, procrastination is like one of the most difficult things for a student athlete. And I learned along the way, and it's a really useful thing. So it dawned on me one day that every professor at a university, for the most part, have been there for a very long time. And so for a student, it's really important that you think outside the box. One of the things that I did is that I pick up the phone in the summer before I got there. And once I start figuring out the class I wanted to take, I call the professors and say, I would like to get access to the book list in the summer so that I can start reading, because I know once the season started that I was going to be behind. And it was like the most amazing thing ever. They all sent me the book list. I went and got the book, and I was miles ahead of everybody else because I was able to start reading in the summer before I get there. And I started doing it almost every summer. I was at Colgate, what class I'm going to take, and try to get the book list ahead of time. Something as simple as that, because, university experience is all about really reading a lot of material, especially if you did history like I did, which was a dumb idea, but it's just a lot of reading. But it really, really helped me a lot. And it got me to be at a place where I could compete with kids who didn't have to spend several hours and a coat and missing labs and stuff like that. That is like part of the norm when you're an athlete.
that is fantastic advice, because, it's something that, comes with maturity, though, because I can safely tell you that if someone said, "Oh, Mark, do you want to start getting a head start on your reading this summer?" Not a chance in hell. So, I'm impressed. I got to say, Donald, I'm impressed. Now, you were smart also, because you knew that as the year got going, you'd be bottled up with a lot of time restrictions and so forth. But still, I love the fact that you were so far ahead of everybody else. That's fantastic advice. Wow, this is all
we have
really
annoying professors as parents. That doesn't hurt.
Oh, that's actually a very good point. I kind of forgot about that. That could not have been easy. Oh my God. I mean, it's not even like, what, you come home from practice or whatever it was, they don't even need to say a word. Yes, I know, homework, like, whatever, I got it. So, and each of you can chime in. We don't need to do it in order right now necessarily, but, tell me a little bit about some of the price that each of you had to pay to be a student athlete. And I don't mean price financially, but just in terms of, some of the things that you had to miss because you were competing, or some of the things that you had to give up because you were competing. Any of you can go ahead.
So, I mean, the thing that was really hard for me was the external experience, to go overseas and study a semester abroad. I always wanted to do that, and I didn't get a chance to do it. I had friends that got to do it, and it was one of the biggest regret. And in addition to not taking classes that had labs in the night, but looking for, classes that had labs during the day, so you can get to practice.
I would say that I didn't so much feel that I had made any sacrificial stuff during college, but boy, did I pay the price for it later. When I stepped into the pro ranks of sports, that was much harder for me. And then it makes me look back at college and be like, man, I had it easy here. So I don't know. It's just a little bit of a transition, but I was so in love with the routine and the sports at Colgate that I didn't feel that I was making, too many difficult choices. I mean, I can remember that, and I'm sure this is true for all of us, that, we didn't necessarily get a spring break because we probably had to play with whatever team. And Lauren and I know that we would be down in, Georgia or Florida at rowing camp. So we didn't get to have spring break party, but I laughed at that because that's, if that's my biggest sacrifice at, college sport, then I think I did okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kathryn. I feel like I struck a great balance during college. I don't really feel I made any sacrifices in college, but afterwards, I mean, I've missed my friends' weddings. I've missed best friends, births of children, and holidays with my family. Thanksgiving and Christmases and things. But that is the price of the Olympics. That's just what it is. And I feel like I kind of knew that going in, and my expectations were met.
Yeah, for me, a mixture of, a little of everyone. So, holidays, obviously, with friends and family, especially during basketball season, you miss Thanksgiving, Christmas, you get a few days, but you don't really get, the full experience of having an actual, winter break. What is that when you're a basketball player or, student athlete during that season? So I think that, and then also, like Adonal said, I always, thought that, studying abroad would be something that I would be able to do, or even do it with our team. It was weird because every 4 years, the Colgate men's basketball team took an international trip, and it just so happened that the fourth year that it fell on was the year that I did not get to experience. So that was something that definitely I would have loved to experience. It's definitely traveling abroad, but I did make up for it, shortly after graduating, just from all the stories that, some of my colleagues during my years at Colgate, they went to some amazing places, and I made sure to take advantage of that, like my first 5 to 10 years out, and relive some of those experiences that I missed out on.
Because I didn't get a chance to go international at Colgate, but I went to New Orleans. That's international, right? For a Jan plan back when they had those things. That was geology, by the way, which was another really smart move on my part to be geology focused. I didn't even know what the hell it was, and then I decided to do it. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So, Lauren, you're about to embark soon into an MBA and jumping into business, but Adonal, Daniel, and Kathryn, Danny, I keep on saying Daniel, so formal, are each in business. So I'd love to ask you guys each, tell me a little bit about how, your athletic mindset and your skill set and what you accomplished while you're an athlete, how that's helped you, really, how's that translated into business success? How about Adonal, you start with that one.
Yes, I mean, I think that part of what makes being an athlete so unique is that we have, there's not many jobs where you have to go to work in front of 20,000 people or have to be run by somebody 7'4" like Shaq several times, a game. And so I think that part of what it does, it really, there's like nothing you can do that. I remember like so many games where, I went when I got a chance to go to Orlando, and I was the coach told me, you're never going to play a day in your life. You're just going to be here, and you're just going to be, Dwight is just going to practice against you for the rest of your life. And the first day I went in, he literally elbowed me and knocked me out cold. And I'm just lying on the ground, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? It's like, and it was this notion, it's like, if I could do this, there's nothing I can't do in my life. It's a question of reframing and really moving that athletic mindset into a business perspective. It's like, like if you think about how people view the military, I think in many ways it's the same thing, right? There's just skills that you learn that most human beings will never learn in their life. And I think not at that level, but at somewhat at a different level, athletes have this ability to manage emotional control, to be able to remain calm when everything around them is falling apart. And there's so many useful skills that we learn, and part of the difficulty is to figure out how to move it into the direction that is most purposeful for the next transition or the next part of your career.
Thank you. That's awesome. How about you, Kathryn?
Yeah, that's such a great answer, Adonal. And I would say that for me, I was a good athlete, but what got me to the next level was the fact that persistence was really the only skill that I had. and you know what? It was enough. And especially a sport like bike racing, where there are so many external factors to what it takes to succeed at a level like that, from mechanical elements to weather to everything. So many things can come into play in bike racing. And for me to make it to that level, a lot of it was persistence and just showing up day after day and seeing how far I could take it. And then that translated over into the post-athletic side. When I stepped into the realms of activism and finding a career path in that area, I knew that I was going to be up against consistent challenges, and it was persistence that was enabling me to take that road where I could constantly poke the bear and be like, why is it like this? Why? And basically I like to say that I'm now a professional annoyer, and that's what sometimes we have to do in activism. But that skill came from sports for me, and to have many metaphorical and literal crashes in this sport, and to get back up on the horse and persist. And I was able to translate that over into the post-athletic journey. So it's not been easy though. It's still presents many challenges, but for me, that's where I found my niche. So I hope that partially answers the question.
That's fantastic. Thanks. How about you, Danny?
Yeah, I would say for me, it's a few things. Definitely having that competitive edge definitely helps in business. I kind of still get that thrill of competing against, other people that are in my industry. Unlike Adonal, I don't have to take a elbow to the chin from Dwight, but I can still be close and around the game, so I still get that excitement. But definitely that competitive edge. We always tell our clients as well too, like as hard as you're going to be working on the court, behind the scenes in the business world, we're going to be working just as hard off the court, and that's true. just because we still have that athlete mindset that we want to, compete at the highest level possible. I would also say teamwork and working collaboratively. The way I structured my team that, we work with, everyone has their specific role, checking all of our egos at the door for the betterment of, the ultimate goal and purpose, which is to serve our clients. So I think that, from my playing days has definitely resonated into the business world. So I would say those are the primary things that, I've taken from being a student athlete.
That's fantastic. Great advice, everybody. So, Lauren, there you go. So what do you think you can channel into as you pursue your MBA? And because, well, it sounds like you were a pretty good student at Colgate and you focused on academics, correct? So
yeah, I did econ and computer science.
Now, do you feel that competing helped with that? Being an athlete was helping with the studies as well, or did it conflict at all, or what do you think?
I mean, I feel like I've always thrived on a schedule, and the schedule just really helps me find more time in my day. But separate from that, I think something that's made me so successful in my career as an athlete was my passion and my ability to want to wake up every day and be so excited to go and work so hard and sell my soul, to even have a chance to compete on the international stage. And I'm hoping I can find that in my next career. I feel like super excited to move into sports administration and remain in sports and hopefully help young women have the experience that I was able to have. So yeah, I feel like I've been so fortunate to even have found one passion in my lifetime, and I'm so excited to find my next.
I mean, President Lauren, let's do it. Come on. I don't even know what the year would be, 2042? I don't even know what that would be. 2030 something? I don't even know what year we are. Anyway, that's awesome though. Congrats. That sounds fantastic. And without a doubt, my money's on you for sure. So what I'm going to do real quick now is I'm going to bring, we've got a couple of questions in there. What I want to do is bring each of these people asking, I'm going to bring them in to the room and have them ask the question directly. So Darren, I hope that's okay with you. So Darren, why don't you come on in? I'm going to give you a quick little invite here to do that. And come on in and ask your question to these fabulous men and women.
All right.
Richard, tell us a little bit about you. 2 seconds.
All right, about me. So I competed in a couple Olympics in sport of bobsled, competed in college in track and field. I ran the U.S. Bobsled and Skeleton Federation for 12 years. I'm still with the International Federation today. And so, but I've seen a lot of athletes, and I went through it to a certain extent, not as bad as a lot that I see, though, that really struggle with that transition. And I think having athletes understand what to expect and what others have gone through, early on in their college career, in particular, would be helpful. And so I'm curious. I'm sure you've all got thoughts on what those challenges are, and originate from. So get your thoughts on that.
And start us off. Go.
No, Kathryn, you can go.
No, you got it, Danny.
I think the biggest thing is, what I've seen, not only from transitioning from being a student athlete, but even, athletes just post-career, is struggling with that athlete identity. You're something for so many years. You're always, whether you're a student athlete, you always have that tag athlete attached to you. You're a pro athlete, and that becomes your identity. So I think preparing athletes for post-career, I think there needs to be some type of initiatives, whether it's at the university level or, union level within each respective, league or organization. I know the NBA is doing a tremendous job through their MBPA with, kind of the mental health aspect of it, and kind of preparing, and also the player programming aspect of it, of helping athletes, when it comes to what they may do, post career, and also, kind of understanding what their identity is post career. So, again, I'm not sure how much you guys follow, the league that I work with, but there's been some guys that have come out on mental health issues, and the biggest thing has been, them just struggling with finding who they actually are outside of just being an athlete. So, guys like Ben Gordon, guys like Adonal, help me out. I think it was Kevin Love and a few other guys have come out and spoken on mental health. And I think that all ties in to kind of just that shifting of what your true identity is post-playing career.
Yeah, no, I guess I get, and I think that part of the challenge is that, obviously it has a lot to do with the identity mindset, but beyond that is the resources, right? So there's this just perverse way that we deal with athletes. So you're in the league when you don't need anything and everything is offered to you. And then when you're out of the league, when you really need everything, nothing is offered, right? And so part of the challenge is that universities have to really understand what their role is. We have a lot of players that are exiting the league. They don't have the requisite education, and they have played for a university and they are now past. Could the university go back and help them create get that necessary degree that they might have left behind? So there's so much that we can do. So you have an athlete leaving the league. They may not have enough resources, like financial resources, to give themselves the time to go back to school and to figure out what they want to do internship, because they need a job right away, and they don't have the academic background because they didn't finish school. So there's all of these things coming together at a point when they're most vulnerable because they're losing their identity. I mean, I had a chance for the last book I've been working on, Winning the Transition Game, to talk to people from figure skating to football. And, the stories are the same. It's like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I should do next. I don't know how I go to work when there's not people cheering for me when I go to work for the last 15 years. So there's so many things about that identity mindset that has to be worked on.
Yeah, and to add to that, I feel like it's a problem of goal setting along the way. Like, I've seen so many of my teammates come onto the team and have the mindset like, oh, if I just win a gold medal, like, that's going to be who I am. That's going to make me happy. This is my dream. And I think that's really a mistake. I think the goal, what's given me a lot of like perspective and a healthy mindset is having my goal be like, okay, my goal is to go into the sport, and my goal is to work as hard as I can and just give everything that I have. And like, that is going to be the fulfilling part of my journey. It's not about like, I would be lying if I said that winning wasn't important. Winning is very important. I love winning. But like, that is not what's going to be fulfilling at the end of the day. The fulfilling part is going to be my journey and like what I've put into it along the way, not just what I have at the end.
Yeah. I'll chime in too and say that I think, and maybe this is very specific to our American culture, but when we're at the top of something in one field, we immediately feel that we're going to be at the top of something else in another field, right? So when you step away from your sport and you're at the very top, immediately thinking like, well, now I'm going to enter into a job where I'm going to be CEO and I'm going to be rich, right off the bat. Maybe we need to adjust our expectations and be like, okay, I was at the top in my sport, and now I'm onto a new adventure. And it's going to take some time to build up to, to the level of that particular job. And that's okay. We have to remember that those things take time. I know for me, it certainly did, especially if it helps at all. When I transitioned from what was professional figure skating, and then I went to grad school, I had 2 or 3 part-time jobs, that enabled me to get through grad school. And then even after grad school, trying to figure out where am I going to get on staff in journalism, et cetera. I was still working 2 or 3 part-time jobs before I got the gig at ESPN, which then led to other choices. But I think it's important to remember that, like, it's okay to take different steps, and sometimes maybe even do a job that you hadn't even considered en route to the job that you really truly want, right? And that's good. And also for the athletes, out there, where are you going to put that passion and that energy transitioning from sport? Whether you're a professional athlete or you're coming out of your college sport. For me, I made reference that I got into triathlon and cycling because there was neither ice nor water in Tucson, right? But how cool that I had this outlet to try a new sport. I had no expectations of it, but I could just physically put that athleticism somewhere. So I encourage all athletes, to maybe try a new sport as a hobby, do something that's fun. And if it sticks, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay. But we've actually had a lot of people in the pro cycling realm come from all these other high school or college sports, maybe even where they got injured, and they needed something new to try or to play. So, it's just a reminder that there's a lot of choice out there. Yeah.
It's interesting. I guess I have a little bit of experience on the whole athlete transition stuff. And I would say that not just is it the identity aspect, which is a critical one, geez, what do I do? I've been dribbling a basketball my whole life. I've been whatever it is, rowing all my whole life. And now what the hell am I going to do next? But also I find that, as you said, Adonal, earlier, that a lot of times the athlete misses the camaraderie, but also the attention and the fans and the adulation a little bit and that sort of thing. And one of the things that I think also they miss that they don't necessarily notice they miss is, Lauren, you talked about it earlier, that daily routine, the waking up at 7 or 8 a.m. or whatever it is, and doing the training and doing this, and you're eating with your team and all that stuff. And now you've left your sport and you're sitting on a couch going, where is everybody? What happened? Where, what's next kind of thing. So, and to your point, Kathryn, which is brilliant, you were saying about how, a lot of times athletes say, well, shit, I was the number one, blah, blah, blah. I should be the number one, blah. But they forget sometimes that they started out way down here. So they don't necessarily need to go into a company way down here, but they won't be able to be way up here right off the bat. And with that said, I think that I believe that absolutely every athlete can bring so much incredible skill set and mindset to a new company, a new endeavor, whatever it might be, because they've trained incredibly long hours and they've got the tenacity, the grit. They've been coached, which companies love people that are used to being coached, because a lot of people aren't manageable. But athletes are manageable because they've taken instruction from conceptually someone who knows a lot more than them, the coach. So there's so many things that athletes bring to the table that a lot of times they don't even realize. But all we've got to do, and this is something that I've been working on so long for, is really getting athletes to understand a lot of this stuff. And then, as you said, Kathryn, brilliantly, is to develop almost like a hobby or a secondary interest to start even while you're playing. That doesn't necessarily need to be thinking, oh my gosh, this is plan B when I retire, but more so just something else to do. When, studies have shown that when you're doing something else that's exercising some other part of your brain, it's going to make this part of the brain do even better. And it's going to make you perform better on the, wherever you are, the rink, the court, the field, etc. But Darren, fabulous question. I really appreciate it. Thanks for jumping in with us here. Oops, I muted myself. We're going to jump to another question here. I'm going to kick you out gracefully, Darren, but thank you very much. Oh, he kicked himself out. Well done. And then now I'm going to have Matt, you're going to come in if you're cool with that, and I'm going to have you ask your question. And this is a pretty funny one. So come on in, Matt. I'm very curious to hear your answers, all of you.
Yeah, thanks, Moyer. So my question is, if you had to choose a different school, which school, did you have a school that you would have chosen, or maybe looking back now knowing, is there a school that you would pick? And I asked that for a few reasons. Obviously, you guys were all athletes, but I was supposed to go to the University of Arizona, so out in Tucson, bear down, and just life happened, and I ended up at the University of Florida. And I think I have a great life, and I love the University of Florida. But I do think how my life would be different if I had chosen to go to the University of Arizona. So I'd be curious to hear, did you have a school in mind back then, or just thinking back now, what school would you think it would have been, pretty cool or fun to go to?
I'll go since I'm not on mute. I was deciding between Colgate and Boston College, you know, whether or not I wanted to go to a big city. To me, Boston was a big city because I went to a very small high school. But I was deciding between big city or small Colgate. And I also was hoping, you know, I was following my parents, my dad and my grandfather had gone to Williams College. So I was feeling like, oh, well, I'll apply there. I'll go there. And I was on the wait list. And I love this story because I've never been notified. So I'm still on the wait list at Williams. And
Oh, that's great.
but I love the way that it played out because I truly believe that Colgate was the best fit for me. And it's where I wanted to go and where I ended up. And yeah, it's fun to think about what if I had gone here or there. And I love those thoughts, but I love that Colgate was the right place for me.
Nicely stated. I like that. Adonal, go ahead.
Y'all gonna get me in trouble. I don't like this question. So I had a list. My list was 25 to 20 to 15 to 10 to 5. So it was there was a lot of at points and the continuum of that decision making. And almost every week I had a school that I really wanted to go to. And the funny thing about it, Colgate did not come into play until I got to 5 and then realized maybe I should include Colgate. And I remember going to Coach Brewer, and I said, my parents told him, like, our son is thinking about coming to Colgate. And his response was, no, he can't do that. That's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Hilarious. Wow.
And so we're in this meeting telling him, you wouldn't have the last word in this. Colgate is in the list. And so he came around to that idea of accepting it. But at one point, my decision was going to be Duke. And then after I went through that process, I decided Colgate was the right fit.
That's pretty cool. How about you, Danny?
Yeah, the fun answer to this question, I actually know Matt, just, him being a former kid. The fun answer for me is University of Florida, just because I had a, cousin as well as a good friend, Joakim Noah, who I played high school with, that went to university and won 2 national championships back to back. So that would have been pretty interesting to go there as a walk-on, but that's not the real answer, but that was something that was considered. But the school was probably Cornell, which is right up the street from Colgate. I ended up deciding on Colgate just due to the fact that, I had some familiarity. I actually had a high school teammate that went to Colgate the year before I went, and also 2 other friends from high school, Polycarp Country Day School in New York. We usually, send guys and girls to the prestigious universities like Colgate. So, it was more of a familiar fit. Had people that I knew up there, so that's why I was excited that I chose Colgate, to be around some friends and also get a first class education.
I mean, you, Lauren?
I think I said this earlier, but UVA was my dream school. Looking back, I think that would have been a huge mistake. I'm not even sure I would have made it through 4 years on the rowing team if I had gone to UVA. I think it all worked out.
What's funny, man, is that I think and this is going to sound very self-serving to an extent for Colgate, but I think what you'll find with Colgate alums is that to a T, virtually every single one of them is super excited that they ended up going there. Mm-hmm. And not just because of the experience at the school, but also the connection that the students and the alums all feel with each other. And it's a very strong bond, a strong connection, the Colgate connection. And it's something I didn't really know these 4 guests too well, but they, sort of jumped at the chance, and we've connected since then. And that's the kind of thing that can happen, which is really nice. And, something that I talk about all the time when I'm coaching my clients and so forth is I'll tell them, look, really go after your fellow alums wherever you went to school, because you all share that same common bond, that same 3, 4, 5, whatever 6-year experience that you can actually leverage and continue to leverage for a long time. So I think it's, when I look back, I know you didn't ask me, Matt, but I'm going to answer you anyway. Tough beans. you know, I look back and I'm happy that I didn't choose Harvard, partially because I didn't actually apply there. But if I was to apply there, I would have gone. So I think all of us are, as you can tell, are pretty excited that we chose it. So that's a fantastic question on Matt. Well done.
Yeah,
I like it.
I also I watched the College Scandal movie last night. That is a wild story if you haven't seen it. It's just, especially with you guys being athletes, to understand the process of it was just it's crazy. I mean, you heard about, you know, Laughlin and Felicity just because they were but they weren't really the main characters in the story, and it was very well done. So I recommend a watch for that. And then I leveraged University of Florida, the Warrington College of Business. I had 4 interns last year. I'm going to have more University of Florida interns. So I encourage everyone to reach back out to the university that you went to, and there are great resources for you or anyone else you know that is currently looking. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Matt. Thanks a lot. All right, so we're going to wrap up in a second and jump back to the tables and do a little. We call it a night, but really just to you know, one last question for each of you, if you don't mind, and that's you know, what can you? I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things surrounding career stuff, transition stuff, academic stuff, and so forth, but give me your sort of greatest hits of, you know, sort of one, maybe the most important lesson you may have pulled out of your collegiate experience that you, again, want to share. I mean, not necessarily advice, but just the thing that you enjoyed the most, that you're thrilled you did with it. Kathryn, you're, again, the only person not muted. Congratulations.
Well, that's because I'm just up here in the corner of the screen. It's like the go-to corner.
I knew you were down there. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gosh, you know, I don't know, that it's tough because now I have to go back in time, you know, to really think this through. I don't know. I'm so happy that, you know, I think for me, the greatest thing at Colgate specifically was that I had the opportunity to walk onto a sport, which for me was rowing, you know, and it opened so many doors. I think so I don't know if that's, I guess it is an accomplishment, right? That was the right door to walk through. And I'm so glad that I did. But for me, you know, on a bigger picture, the greatest accomplishment was picking a school where I truly felt supported by my peers. And like Adonal was mentioning earlier, like the professors there, they had your back, you know, whether you knew it or not. But, you know, something about that was amazing. So to keep it short, I honestly think that, you know, my biggest success or that pinnacle moment for me at Colgate was really choosing it and exploring all that they had to offer within sports and connecting with other athletes. I also want to mention that Adonal and I had creative nonfiction writing together. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I don't know if either of us knew or thought at the time that we would become authors, but there was something magical about that class. Our professor, Leila Phillips, you know, Sarah Wider, these amazing professors, and the ability to interact with each other. So how interesting that, you know, here I am talking with my former classmate of nonfiction writing, and we both had these careers in sports and in literature that, you know, we might not have expected back at that time. So, you know, that was just, it was an achievement for me being at Colgate, and the rest just all kind of happened.
Honest. I mean, you didn't, I mean, just write a book, an author, but you're on book number 4.
Oh, you mean this one that's sitting right next to me?
Yes.
Oh,
Product placement. I love it. I love it. Adonal, go get yours quick.
Yeah, no, get mine.
Get them.
No,
Nicely done, Kathryn. And then are those, where can someone buy a copy of this book, and tell me a little bit about it real quick?
Real quick, this is Stand, a memoir on activism. A Manual for Progress. It's the story of standing up and fighting for change, not just for women's inclusion, but for inclusion of everyone in sport. And it's out there. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. If you Google Stand Bertine, this will pop up. If you Google The Stand, you'll get Stephen King. I highly encourage both.
I do have that one somewhere. Yeah. Good. Awesome. Yeah.
Over to you, Adonal.
I know, that's perfect.
Hold
That's
up
so
the books.
perfect.
Hold up the books. Have them? You
course
must
you do.
have them.
Oh, of course. I mean, right here. It's called Winning the Transition Game. And, I think as Kathryn was saying, the most amazing thing for me, I can track almost all of the things that I'm doing in my life currently back to my professors, right? My foundation, Democracy Matters, started in one of Professor Coleman Brown's class, Philosophy and Religion. I fell in love with him. I took a senior seminar with him and Martin Luther King. Leela Phillip, I took classes with her. Peter Balakian forced me to write poetry. Kathy Leepa Levinson taught me how to act. I mean, it's like every single thing in my life came from the people at Colgate that influenced me, because I think that is that smallness of class where you can't hide. There's nowhere to hide except for, psychology class that had 100. Everything was 20 people in a class. There's nowhere to hide. So you had to be there. You had to be present. And I'm grateful for that. So for me, as someone who's always been naturally shy, having a class where you couldn't hide was very important for me, because it was easy for me to get lost, even though I'm 6'10", in most classes.
I was going to say 6'10" is hard to hide, regardless of how many people in the damn room, right?
I tried, though. I really tried.
That's great. Hey, Lauren, what about you?
I would say that the confidence I gained in my time at Colgate was really the most valuable part of the experience, really athletically and academically. It's amazing that I have teammates with Olympic gold medals and I see how little confidence they have. And I feel like since I've had to honestly fight from the bottom for a long time, that has really been a huge confidence boost for me. And a great thing I've taken from Colgate.
Awesome. Thanks. How about you, Danny? You're muted, by the way.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I would say a few things. The number one thing I think would be is being a first generation graduate from such a prestigious university of my family. I think that was, kind of one of the biggest accomplishments for me. As we know, Colgate's an extremely challenging, school, both academically and also athletically, so being able to accomplish that feat was extremely, beneficial for where I am today. Glad I persevered through it all and got to where I am. And a lot of the, challenges that I faced at Colgate, has kind of prepared me for the business world now. There's not any, loops or hurdles that I can't get through, because I know that I spent, a very rigorous 4 years, not only as a student, but as an athlete. And that's prepared me well, for where I am today. And then outside of that, the friendships that I developed, lifelong friendships that became, family, literally. So Colgate's in a very, very unique place in the middle of nowhere, upstate New York. So you form this bond over those 4 years that lasts a lifetime. And, even events like this, like you mentioned, Mark, these are extremely invaluable networking events. Even guys like Adonal, very close with, his business manager, Steven Erickson, and that's all from, the bond of just being a Colgate alum, which has paid, extreme dividends in my life today. So those are probably the two primary things that I took away as the biggest accomplishments.
Now that was, that's all of you have been so spot on with all this stuff. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this out there, because I think it's just, every one of you has such incredible insight to offer, not just student athletes who have left, non-athletes and so forth. So I truly appreciate all of your input. I really do. And, this is just a perfect example of what tends to happen here in the club room, which is, coming together, sharing your knowledge and your insight and your expertise and your life experiences, and along with just meeting some new people and creating some new relationships that hopefully can last a long time, just as you said, Danny. So thanks to each of you for being here. I truly appreciate it. I really do. I'm so excited to do an event that showcases my alma mater. I mean, geez, I shouldn't even show you, but I still have my calendar over there, my stickers everywhere. The stuff is here, right? We can't escape it. But thank you all for being here. And we're just going back to the tables for a little bit. And if you can hang for a little while, we'd love to have you. And thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure. Thanks. Thanks for being part of the Clubroom event today. It's been great having you on board. Check out all the resources available to the Win Again Academy. Go to the website, markmoyer.com, and you'll see all the previous events, podcast episodes, articles, and so much more. Check it out. And look, if you're an athlete, if you're an entrepreneur and a founder, or an executive looking to elevate your game and really take your business and your career to a whole new level, consider becoming a Win Again Academy member. We'd love to have you on board because you get access 24/7 to an incredible Slack community of other members where you can really elevate your network and meet some really impressive people. You'll also get a personalized copy of my book, Win Again, the job search handbook for athletes and non-athletes looking to really transform their life and their career. You'll also get seamless entry into the Clubroom events. And these events are absolutely amazing. Table-to-table networking, conversations with everybody at your own pace. It really is fun, but also incredibly great for your network. You've got to check those out. You'll also get discounts to future VIP events that we've got lined up. So consider joining, be a part of this community, be a part of that Slack channel. Come to these events. You'll meet some amazing people. Go to markmoyer.com/join-today and take advantage of all the things that you have to offer for an incredibly, incredibly great price. Check it out. We'd love to see you there, and see you in the Clubroom soon. Thanks.